Okay, thanks for your patience, Vanessa. We're going to start off today's session with regards to Learning Outcome 2. And Learning Outcome 2, we are looking at, understanding the principles of effective teamwork. This particular learning outcome is quite interesting because it will help you understand how team building generally happens within an organization and why do managers or sometimes, leaders put together people into a team. And reason we put people into a team is because sometimes the work which is to be accomplished is bigger than what individuals can essentially do. One of the things, excuse me, one of the things that you'll also note is that when we look at forming a team, we also look at forming a team because team as a word actually stands for together everybody achieves more. And this is one of the definitions of team that has been put forward by Tom Peters. And what we need to understand is that um, sometimes when we are asked to work with a colleague or with a peer to be able to work and then do or say participate in a task which is going to be bigger than what you're expected to do on a daily basis, then what you're going to do is find yourself that you're going to be put into teams. Now, in teamwork, in the team building model, we essentially look at two frameworks. One is how team is built. So we'll be looking at focusing on Dr. Bruce Tuckman's team building model, and the second model that we're going to be focused on is primarily looking into Hackman's input process output model, which is also called the IPO model. And then once people have been put into teams, what we also want to do is understand how teams are performing, how people within those groups or teams are essentially performing to achieve the aims and objectives. So in those cases, what we do is we study Dr. Meredith Belbin's team theory model, and his work has been very recognized in the industry because his work basically classified what kind of roles people can take up within teams. And he came up with three categories of roles. And across these three categories, we look at 9 different roles that he proposed. And that model is called the Belbin's theory model. So these two models, essentially, we will look at in discussing in terms of theory today. And then we'll be also looking at what do you call looking into the 3 assessment criterias, and these 3 assessment criterias will focus on what are the benefits of working within the team for individual as well as organization. We'll be looking at why teams do fail, if sometimes people are not able to work together, they don't gel together, they don't have a relationship, or they are not able to understand each other, communication breaks down. We look at why do teams fail. And then what we'll also look at is what are the various leadership styles and what is the impact of these leadership styles on teamwork within an organization. Now, what I want to do is basically start off today's discussion by playing a particular video, which is going to be focused on understanding what is team building and team building model. So let me switch you over to a screen wherein we are going to see a very short video in terms of an introduction to primarily understanding what is the Tuckman's team building model. So let me play that
video about the model developed by Bruce Tuckman that explains how groups develop into performing teams. The Tuckman model sets out the 4 stages of group formation: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Each stage of the Tuckman model must be visited. Groups cannot skip stages. Even if a group feels as though they have, they will in fact still be stuck in the forming stage. Forming. This stage is characterized by politeness, as the group has just been formed and everyone is feeling their way. Personal agendas are kept hidden. There may be some confusion about individuals and their roles. Storming. This stage is characterized by people testing the limits of what they can do and how they can behave. Agendas begin to emerge, and there may be disagreements about priorities and leadership struggles. Norming. This is the stage where those within the group have found ways of working together. The leadership issues have been solved, and the norms for behaviour have been agreed. Performing. This is the stage where a group operates as an effective, high-performing team. This can only happen if a group has worked through the previous 3 stages. Teams work through this process, and some may never achieve normally performing. However, even performing teams are likely to be disrupted by a new member joining the team. In this situation, the stages will be revisited as the person offers new ideas and different opinions. Thanks for watching this video. For more videos like this, see our channel.
So essentially, what you see in this particular video is that Bruce Tuckman, they've not gone into details, but I just wanted to make sure that you have a brief overview of what is actually Tuckman's model. So here I'm going to, obviously look at now sharing with you a video on the Belbin's team roles. And that is the other video that I want you to watch so that you're able to understand. And we'll go into a bit of detailing specifically when we talk about, these models. So let me just play that video as well. So let me bring that in. Are you able to see this now? Are you able to see this?
Yes, I can see,
All
but
right,
I have a question.
That's great. Okay, let's start.
Okay, so Belbin team roles. Well, the
I
concept
have a question.
Dr. Meredith Belbin was working with business managers. This was in the 1970s at a place called Henley Management College in Oxfordshire in England. And he became interested in the makeup of teams. In particular, what he wanted to know was what makes a winning team. So he did some psychometrics, he put them into teams, he got them playing a kind of supercharged monopoly. And one of the things he discovered early was that a successful team needs a range of abilities. You already know this. You don't expect your opening bowler to also open the bag. Likewise, you don't think that because somebody's a champion cyclist, they'll automatically be great at the shot put. Belbin put it this way, he said, a team of specialists will always beat a team of all-rounders. As time progressed, different clusters of behaviour were identified as underlying the success of the teams. And Belbin called a team role a tendency to behave, contribute, and interrelate with others in a particular way. Now, it's important to remember that Belbin is about working on strengths. If you don't tell the duck you're a great swimmer, but your running's terrible, so we'll work on that. Now, you try and maximise the duck's value as a swimmer. So Belbin identified 9 team roles that underlie successful team composition. And you can think of them in groups of 3. So the first group are the thinking-oriented roles. Now, the first role, these people are highly creative and imaginative. They're good at solving problems in unconventional kinds of ways. Okay, and Belbin called these people plants. Now, the second group, these people are logical. They can weigh up options. They can make impartial judgments that are based on emotions. Yeah? These are the kind of people who can give you real advice. And Belbin called these people monitor evaluators. The last and the first group, well, these people just have detailed knowledge of a specific key area. It might be nuclear physics, it might be the chemical composition of donuts. These are the specialists. Okay, so the second group of roles are the people-oriented roles. And the first of these, well, this is the person who can manage the team. They can delegate the work. They can focus on the team's objectives, and this is the coordinator. The second group, well, these people are the heart and soul of the team. They're able to use their versatility to give assistance to all team members. They're the team worker. The last in this group, well, these people know the market. They've got inside knowledge of the opposition. They connect the team's ideas to the world. These are the resource investigators. Now, the final trio are the action-oriented roles. And the first of these roles is the driver, the leader. Belbin calls this role the shaper. Shapers have the drive to keep the team moving forward and focused. The second group are the doers. These are the people who plan practical strategies, carry them out efficiently. They actually make the product. These are the implementers. The final role, and it's most effective near the end of the task, which is when they can polish, scrutinise for errors, ensure a high standard of quality control. These are the completer finishers. So there are the 9 roles. Does this mean that every successful team needs 9 members? Well, no. Some roles are shared, or one individual takes on more than one. The roles have specific strengths and associated problem areas, but really they're a tool for managing yourself and the other members of your team that encourages awareness, integration and efficiency. It promotes a team of specialists, which is a win team.
So as you can see, this particular video also then shows you what are the ways in which people actually align within the team. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to basically get into understanding these in a bit more detail. So what I'm going to also do is primarily, provide you with two handouts, which I'm going to show you now. These handouts are going to be up on Moodle. And this particular handout, this one in particular, is a handout on Tuckman's team building model. And this will give you a lot of details in terms of what are the various stages of team formation and how you would be able to, understand why the fifth stage was added on, which is adjourning, or basically disbanding the team. That means breaking up the team once the work has been finished. So this handout will give you a bit more details on that. And the second handout that I'm going to share with you on Moodle is going to be Dr. Belbin's team roles, what was explained in the video. And this particular handout will actually show you the 9 different kinds of role divided into 3 categories. And then with the example, we'll discuss each of these roles in a bit more detail. And why are these important? And, why do we need to make sure that we make people take up those roles, which are basically, meeting their skills, strength, their knowledge, and their prior experience, because that puts the team up for success. That allows people to achieve objectives, feel motivated, and obviously be able to contribute to the overall objective of the team, which the organization is trying to achieve. So these 2 additional handouts are going to be additional reading that you have to look at when we do look into the details of these 2 theoretical frameworks, which are important for understanding the learning outcome 2. Now, I'm also going to be refreshing the learning outcome 2 presentation on Moodle, and that is what you're going to be going through with me today in terms of the further discussions, for this particular unit. So let me just switch over to the presentation, and we will then actually start our discussions basis that. So this particular presentation basically covers learning outcome 2, which is understanding the principles of effective teamwork. And this would be up on Moodle along with the 2 handouts that I've shown you just after this session, and a copy of the recording of this session as well. Now, let's look at a couple of things before we go into, the detailing of some of the discussions that we want to do, as far as learning outcome 2 is concerned. Now, in the indicative content, we are looking at a couple of things. One would be related to understanding what are the benefits of team. We're going to be looking at why do teams essentially fail. This is primarily to look at the bits on, the reasons of failure. And these reasons of failure could be, very many. And what we would want to do is essentially look at how, these reasons of failure, can be overcome by a manager or by a leader within the organization. And then we'll focus on some of the leadership theory and styles, which are important, because at the end of the day, when we look at different, different types of teams, and we talk about different types of people working within the teams, we also want to be able to understand the basic bits in terms of why do people remain motivated, or why do they feel motivated to work within a particular team. And for that also, what I'm going to be doing is basically providing you 1 or 2 handouts, and these 1 or 2 handouts that you're going to be looking at would be essentially giving you more detail into the motivational theories. Now, motivational theories are quite, I would say, huge because there are so many of them that we can go through and understand. But what we would want to do is basically understand them from a perspective of that why these theories, are important, and why they are specifically used by people within leadership positions or managerial positions within organization to essentially get people working behind them, working behind the organizational objective, and also getting them motivated to be able to get the work essentially done. Now, two handouts that I'm going to be looking at sharing with you on these two motivational theories is going to be one, which is the McGregor's theory X and Y. And this particular theory, McGregor's theory X and Y, would essentially be focused on understanding, the motivation reasons and how McGregor actually, basically came up with this particular idea, and why and how do we apply this particular theory when it comes to looking at putting it in an organization from a team perspective. And the other one that I'm going to share with you is basically Herzberg's theory, and Herzberg's two-factor theory, or hygiene factor theory, or dual factor theory as it is called, is Herzberg's theory of factor X and factor Y. And this particular theory, again, focuses on understanding the type of individuals within the team that you're going to put. And they would essentially help you to understand how you motivate people when you put them in teams for the purposes of doing a bigger job or a bigger role in terms of achievement of aims and objectives for the organization. So these two particular theory handouts is what I'm also going to be looking at putting into the Moodle for you underneath the presentation, and they would be useful for you for the purposes of reading and understanding them in a bit more detail. Now let's go back to our presentation, wherein we want to focus on covering the basic frameworks.
Excuse me,
Yeah, go on.
I have a question. These theories that you're talking about, are we looking at them in terms of motivation theories or theories of teamwork?
No, these are going to be related to theories of teamwork, but within teamwork, one of the aspects that we focus on specifically with regards to keeping the members of the team motivated are going to fall into understanding the theories of motivation as well. Because when you put together people in teams, they always look at their own perspectives. Sometimes people tend to be selfish. They want to be looking at that, what is it in for me? And in those cases, managers and leaders need to fall back on motivation theories, which is to create, things like a bit of a bonus incentive plan, a recognition reward system, which allows people to remain motivated and work as one of the members within the team to be able to achieve the objective. So sometimes when you work within an organization, you are given a target or an objective. An example in this case would be, say, if you understand that you're working within, say, the marketing team, and you are the events manager, I am the marketing manager, there is somebody who's managing PR, there's somebody who's managing research, there is somebody who's managing campaigns, and there could be somebody who's managing, say, for example, digital marketing or print marketing. Now, we are reporting into a group head of marketing. Now, when I work within my job and as a role, what I want to do is I want to perform my roles and responsibilities. But say, for example, as a team, we have been now given a task to complete or, come up with a product launch idea. Say, for example, we work for Apple. And as a company, what we want to be able to do is make the iPhone 15 launch very successful. Now, if the entire team is to work on that, what will also happen is that sometimes there will be other members which will be drafted from other departments to be becoming a part of this core launch team. That means somebody which this team will essentially be responsible for launching the product in various markets, looking at various activities. Now, if you are to be given this additional responsibility and you want to, you are picked for this additional responsibility and you are then asked to carry this out, you would feel that, okay, I'm already doing this much work and I'm being given additional work, then what is it in for me to perform and also deliver on this particular task? So sometimes people look at this approach as a carrot and stick approach, which means your manager would essentially incentivize you, and what that incentivization would be is going to be linked to your motivation. Are you after reputation? Are you after recognition? Are you looking at, in the long run, getting a promotion? Are you looking at a rise in your salary? And in those cases, what managers and leaders have to do is they have to study your motivation And in order to understand what motivates you, what drives you, they then have to put those suitable, things in place which allow you to strive to achieve that task, and as a result achieve the goal, and thereby helping the team to also achieve the objective. So in such cases, managers and leaders would put together what are called motivational plans, or motivational things, which could include incentives, holidays, bonus, recognition, reward. And those have to be studied. In order for you to understand that what drives you as an individual, we need to look at understanding the motivational theories and models. And depending on what is driving you and what is important for you in your career and in your job, the manager would then be required to put in an appropriate incentive. And that could only be done if you understand motivation theories. So here, when we look at teamwork, what we are also looking at is understanding the motivational theories, because they are a key part and parcel of, how sometimes we are going to look at motivating the members who have formed a particular team for a particular task. Sometimes companies call it a task force. We also call it a team. You have been moved into a product launch team for the next 12 weeks because iPhone is being launched, and your role would be to help and perform as a team member, given the role that you are given, to be able to help the launch of this product in different countries, maybe starting with the US, then going to UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, other countries. And that could be one of the things that we look at. So here, the leadership style, people who lead a team, it will be important for you to understand.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
So, in short, the theories of motivation are different from the theories of teamwork.
You'll have to be a bit louder, Vanessa, because I can't hear you that well. So theories of leadership and theories of motivations have to be studied, because at the end of the day, most members working as team members within the team would be required to be led. They will be leading people who work in an organization as a leader. They would be looking at leading the team. So you need to have an understanding of leadership theories, one or two key leadership theories, and also have an understanding of motivational theories. Okay. So they are important for you to understand how these theories.
My question has been answered.
Sorry, come again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I was asking, the theories of teamwork are different from the motivation theories.
Absolutely, yes.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, they are different. They are different. Yes, obviously, these are different theoretical frameworks.
So
you have leadership theories, you have motivation theories, and you have.
Okay, so are we going to look at the theories of teamwork?
Yes. We are going to go into theories of teamwork, and some of the theories which are required to be studied to understand teamwork are also required to understand leadership and motivation. Is that okay?
Okay.
You will need to study them also to understand how leaders actually use these theories to put teams in place. Okay. Now let's look at what are the principles of teamwork. So when we talk about principles of teamwork, there are 4 main principles of teamwork, and these 4 principles tend to be looking into communication, collaboration, conflict, and decision making. And they are very important components of why people should be able to work within a team. Sometimes we also see these defined as what are called, the 3 C's of effective teamwork. And these 3 C's tend to be, communication, coordination, and cooperation that we generally get to see. So this is one of the things that we will look at, when we talk about the principles of teamwork. And principles of teamwork, the 3 main principles of teamwork always tends to be communication, collaboration, and coordination. And they would help in making an effective decision. And at the same time, they would help in avoiding any conflicts within the team. So that is why these are, quite important. Now, one of the things that you have to look at is, what does team stand for? Team is an acronym which basically, as a word, means together everyone achieves more. And there are various definitions of teams. So Margaret Mead and Tom Peters, they have put together some definitions which are widely accepted. And these definitions tend to be that, innovation is simply group intelligence having fun. That means when a group of individuals come together, they are able to accomplish bigger tasks. And these bigger tasks, which can be accomplished, can be done because of teamwork. And Margaret Mead essentially, put together a definition of team, which meant that, you should not be in doubt when a group of individuals which are able to work together, they are committed, they understand each other, they can do big, things and accomplish big tasks if they come together and work as a team. So these are some definitions that we need to look at to understand what is team essentially. So team stands for together everyone achieves more. Now, these two models of team building we have actually discussed. One is the Tuckman's model and team building model or team roles model of Dr. Belbin. We'll go into details of this model as we discuss some of the assessment criteria. Now, the first one talks about benefits of team working for individual and organization. Now, here, what we want to do is, before I go into the benefits of working as a team, what I want to understand is, in general, let's look at some of the ideas in terms of why, people need to work in team. And I gave an example earlier that when an organization looks at achieving something bigger, they have a big goal to achieve. And in order to achieve that big goal, they feel that one person or a group of people cannot, achieve even if they work together. So in those cases, what the organization essentially does is, it brings together best people in terms of their experience, knowledge, and expertise from different areas, and they group them together into a team to be able to achieve a bigger objective. Now, an example, if you have seen the Apple launch of the iPhone 15, you would see that Tim Cook, who's the chief executive, is actually introducing the new Apple Watch Ultra, the new iPhone 15, but the detailing of the product in terms of why the product is different, how is it innovative, what advanced features does it have, you have different members talking about that in the video. These different people come from the engineering background, they come from manufacturing background, they come from software background, they are also product managers, people who basically work on the product and conceive the ideas, and people in marketing and people in business development. They all come together to explain why this product is revolutionary. So in those cases, when Apple needs to put forward that why is the iPhone 15 the best iPhone so far, they bring together people from different expert areas within their organization, and they bring them to announce this launch of this product. Now, this is nothing but a team. This is a core team which is actually introducing this product to the world, or introducing this product and launching it globally. Now, when we look at this concept, what we are looking at here is the concept wherein the top management in the organization would have discussed that why do we need to pick this person or that person, and according to their strengths, their skill set, their prior experience, their relevance to the product, and the importance in terms of what they have brought to the product, they are selected and they become a part of a team which is going to bring this product to the market. Now, this is where the organization is able to achieve the launch and announcement of this product successfully, because they have the right set of people to be able to explain the benefits, the advantages, and how is it different, or what are the benefits that consumers would get by using this product. So as you can see, the organizations, in order to accomplish or get to bigger goals, sometimes have to bring people together into teams for a short period of time. And this is to accomplish the launch of the new iPhone 15 to consumers globally. Now, having said that, Sometimes you can also see a smaller example of it. If I give you another example, but in a smaller setting, would be when you are in a classroom and your teacher is teaching, and what she does is she creates some activities and she groups people together or students together, children together, to be able to do those tasks. So if imagine she was carrying out an activity that she's asking you to, say for example, do some experiments in the chemistry lab. Now, what she would do is basically form groups of 3 or 4 students together and give them a particular task to try out those experiments. Now, what does that do? It does a couple of things. One, it allows students to mix and share their thoughts, their feelings. It allows them to use their expertise and their knowledge to be able to accomplish that experiment. So it brings communication, interaction, it brings bonding or relationship amongst that 3-4 students who are working in a particular group, and they are able to carry out those experiments quite quickly because there is teamwork involved, because someone will do one particular experiment, someone will do preparation, someone will document it, someone will present it. So that allows the division of jobs to also happen within that group, and they are seen to be working as an effective team. If they have problems, they can use their creative skills to essentially look at also solving a particular problem. So when we look at teamwork and when we look at people being put together into a group to be able to accomplish certain tasks, that is what we see as benefits of people being able to achieve, bigger goals or bigger objectives, because they are able to combine their strength, experience, knowledge and problem and creative thinking skills to be able to accomplish that particular task. Now, one of the key things that we also need to look at in terms of what is the reason behind working in teams, or what are the reasons behind why do we need to put people into teams. One of the first things that we need to do is understand the social identity theory, which was essentially proposed by Tajfel and Turner in 1979. Now, what does this theory actually talk about? This theory actually is a significant concept in psychology. And this revolves around the idea that individuals categorize themselves and others into various social groups, such as nationality, religion, and ethnicity. So when this categorization is understood by the manager or by the leader who's actually putting together a team, that allows the manager to essentially choose people by exploring their individual perspectives and how and what they perceive in the context of social grouping. Thereby, they try to then bring people together which have similar attitudes, similar behaviors, similar skill sets, and they are able to work together. And the group as a group as a whole shows dynamics of working together to be able to achieve the objective. They don't bring somebody into the group by studying these social parameters of nationality, religion, and ethnicity, so that they don't include somebody in the group which is going to be a disruptor. That means somebody who's not going to accept and is going to fight, is going to create problems or create conflicts in the future. So one of the reasons why teams are formed and how managers form these teams, they look at this particular understanding of the theory, which is social identity theory, and that tends to be understanding social categorization basis. What are my beliefs? So, for example, if I come from a particular country or a particular area, what are my beliefs? What are my needs? What are my preferences? What kind of an attitude I have towards the other team members? What behavior do I show? And all those parameters are bits that we can actually understand from the social identity theory, which was actually proposed by Tajfel and Turner. Now, the second theory that we look at is Belbin's theory. Assuming the team has been formed, and once the team has been formed, what we then need to be able to do is understand what role is to be given to individual person. And when we talk about this, we will need to go into a bit of detail on Dr. Belbin's theory, because when he came up with this particular theory, he proposed 3 different categories of roles. And when we talk about these 3 particular categories of roles, these 3 particular categories that he came up with essentially were, 3 different ones, which he proposed was action-oriented roles, which basically have the shaper, the implementer, and the the complete finisher role. So let me change this into a different image, because that is going to be much more ideal. So when he talked about the different kind of roles which people actually take up within the team, he came up with these three different categories. And these three different categories, action-oriented people, and then he defined the strengths, which are characteristics of these people, and what could be the weakness that these kind of people have. So he defined the strengths and the weaknesses of these people, so that managers, if they are able to understand what and how these people would want to work within the team, then it would allow the managers to essentially put together an effective team. The second people that he categorized were people-oriented roles. That means they are coordinators. They are basically somebody who would, get everyone together. They are team workers. They will be focused on their job. They will try to finish it. And they will be people who would be resource investigators. So these are people who are going to be extrovert, enthusiastic. They communicate well, and they are able to develop contacts to be able to get things into the team so that the team is able to achieve the objective. And the third type of roles that he suggested was cerebral roles, people who are creative, who are imaginative, who essentially are, brainy, in the sense they have academic background. They would be planters. People who are monitors essentially tend to be people who are strategic. They have the idea or the way that they can think long term in strategic nature. They look at people and making judgments. They consider all the options, and then they are able to help in the decision-making process. And then we have specialists. These people are people essentially who are, specialists in a particular role. They can work on their own. They don't need supervision. They need very little supervision, if I may put it this way. And they have a lot of knowledge and skills from their prior experience and background. And these theories in total, the Tajfel and Turner theory, Dr. Belbin's theory, basically help us in understanding why teams are required and how teams essentially can be, useful to organizations in a particular situation. Now, what are the benefits to people when they work within the team? The benefits to people are that if you work with somebody who is more skilled or more knowledgeable than you, then you are going to pick up some of that knowledge, because you're working with that person who's more knowledgeable or has more experience. So it helps in skill development. It also helps in increasing motivation. Imagine a situation wherein you are working alone and you are essentially required to complete a particular task. But sometimes this task can become monotonous or repetitive. And because the task is repetitive, you sometimes want to give up. You don't want to finish it because you say, okay, I'm doing the same thing again and again. It's very boring. So sometimes when you have people working with you in the team, they can help you motivate to say, yes, you've done this, you're almost there, let's finish it. And they can help you tremendously in terms of keeping your morale up and also boosting you to be able to, let's say, push you and encourage you to essentially help you finish that task. And obviously, sometimes when people are working together in groups and teams, what tends to happen is that there is a lot of learning. Your learning tends to be amplified. That means in some cases, what will happen is you would be exposed to diverse perspectives, different viewpoints, and these different viewpoints can help you, essentially stimulate your creativity. It would help you in decision making, and in most cases, this would also be useful for individuals to pick up and build new, let's say, areas of strengths or skills, and these are benefits to individuals. When we talk about benefits to organization, we are looking at, if a group of people are able to work together and they are able to essentially say, for example, when they work together, essentially they are able to, let's put it this way, complement each other, then you would generally see that the performance of the team can be enhanced. So as we also say sometimes that 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1, if they work effectively, they become 11. So there is strength in numbers. And when people work together, they can outperform individual tasks. And, in settings when they are required to do diverse jobs or roles, there the teams can be more effective. Teams can also be, beneficial to organization because they help in the effective utilization of resources. So sometimes what will happen is if you look at an organization and there is somebody in the payroll department, and he's the only one, for example, only processing and printing out salary slips for hundreds of employees at the end of the day, at the end of the month, what you will generally see is that maybe the resource that he has, which is a payroll printing machine or a Franklin machine, might not be utilized that much. But if you have that machine also be used by administration and reception, where they use Franklin machine to post out letters and other bits, then sometimes companies can have the same resources being utilized more and effectively if they are given to a team rather than just one individual. So if you look at one particular example, if I look at a couple of years back, 20 years back, what used to happen in the organization was everybody was given a printer. When they joined the company, they had a PC and a printer. So every printer had the same usage in terms of toner, paper had to be allocated, and the company was incurring more costs. But then later on, as technology has improved, what has happened is a company has decided to install a network printer. That means amongst a group of employees or a department of employees, there is one photocopier or printer installed, which allows everybody to use that resource. And that makes the optimal utilization of that resource, because everybody is able to print, everybody is able to use that resource. It is not mandatory that only your manager has the printer or somebody has the printer, wherein you have to then seek permission or look at taking printouts not very often. So in this case, this could be an example of resource utilization. You look at other examples of benefits to the organization, which includes employee engagement and problem solving. Sometimes when you're faced with a problem, imagine a project manager working with his team and they are constructing a bridge. Now, if they run into a problem wherein, for example, when they're constructing the bridge, there are mountainous regions or there is bad weather conditions which come in, then the project manager can actually brainstorm and discuss with other colleagues within the team to say what would be the best way forward, because this is halting the work. So sometimes new ideas, new creative ideas or suggestions can come from team members because they have a different perspective of looking. And this allows everybody to get engaged and also at the same time, everybody to help in solving that problem. And these are some of the benefits that you look at when we talk about, how organizations can benefit from, essentially team working or team working skills. So there are benefits for the organization and there are benefits for individuals, and that is why it is important to understand that when organizations put people together in teams, they are doing so because this is going to be more beneficial for the organization from a perspective of looking at getting work done or getting bigger jobs or goals accomplished. Is that okay? Any questions? Okay, let's look at the second assessment criteria, wherein it is talking about why teams might fail if they do not meet the objectives, and what are the reasons why actually teams actually fail. When people come together, they work together, but they essentially are still not able to, let's say, achieve certain objectives. So here is where what we need to understand the Tuckman's team building model. Now, the reason why we need to understand this particular model is because sometimes if people are put together in teams and this putting together in teams does not benefit the organization, that means the objectives have not been carefully looked into, then in those cases, what will happen is you would generally find that even if there are a number of people working together to meet the objective, they are still not.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go on.
It's in regard to the benefits of
Yes.
teamwork to that organization.
Okay.
How do we approach the part of how are these benefits apparent in the organization that you have researched? Like, how can I approach that? Like, give me like any example or like, yeah.
So when you look at benefits for, say, the organization, you are looking at discussing things like, so I give you an example of a product launch. And if it is something which the company has to do, they have to get people from different departments as experts to come in and help in that particular function. Now, the other example that I could give, which is, say, maybe within an organization, could be that you look at, let's say, a call center. And a call center, you have a manager and you have a number of call center agents which basically make calls to customers, or they receive calls from customers to solve problems. For example, you are with a mobile phone company, Vodafone, and you are having problems with your phone. So what will happen is, now as a company, your call center is basically, people within the call center are basically trained to provide solutions to customers. Now, if a customer calls and the customer is calling and there is a set specific problem that she is facing and she is not able to overcome that problem, now what she decides to do is basically call the customer service to take help in terms of solving that problem. Now, imagine you are the agent which picks up the call and you go through a list of things that you've got to troubleshoot that problem, but you're not able to resolve it. Then what you do is you fall back onto your manager. You say, okay, can I just put you on to hold for 2 minutes and let me also discuss with my manager? So what you then do is you discuss the problem which the customer is facing with your manager, and the manager would give you a bit of a solution to say, can you try this out? Can you ask the customer to try this out to try and see if the problem can be resolved? Now, at the same time, what the manager does is also puts it to other agents which are free to say that, have you had a call or have you had a call from a customer who has encountered a similar problem? So you go back to the customer and you give him some options to try out. But in the meanwhile, in the background, the other colleagues are also discussing amongst themselves if they have had a call with a similar type of problem being faced by a customer. And if they discuss together, they can come up with a solution that, okay, yes, the other day I had a call and this was the same problem and this is how I resolved it. So what then happens is he is able to share that with you in terms of what you need to speak to the customer about, and that helps you close that problem or helps the customer actually overcome that problem. Now here, what we are seeing is teamwork happening within the call center between different call center agents to be able to help the customer. And that is possible because somebody else has in the team has already encountered that, and they are able to offer you a solution which can help the problem with the customer. So what you get to see as a benefit in this is for the organization that a number of people are able to work together. They are able to approach the problem. They are able to come up with solutions and then help the customer solve the problem the customer is facing while using the device or the phone. And that is an example of how organizations typically benefit when they put people into teams, which allows for employee engagement. It allows for closer interaction, relationship building, communication, and allowing them to be able to offer a solution to the customer. Is that okay? Is that understood?
Yes, that's okay. Yes, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's okay, but I doubt if it has fully answered my question, but I've tried to understand that thing. Yeah.
So your question is to understand?
I needed to understand from the perspective of the question.
Yeah, so you need, this particular task is about what understanding the benefits to the organization and benefits to individuals of working together in a team. So your question was to give an example. So I have given you an example of how the team essentially helps in solving the problem of the customer and what is the benefit to the organization, that the customer does not need to call again. The call is closed at the same time because of the interaction amongst the employees. And this allows the customer to also be happy because they have been able to resolve, you as a team and your team members have been able to resolve that problem when the customer is called, rather than to say, okay, I will give you a ticket or I will raise a ticket and then a member of the team will come back to you. So that sometimes puts the customer off. So working together as a team effectively is going to help resolve the problem sooner and quicker.
Yes, I've got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. So let's look at the second assessment criteria, which talks about analyzing why teams might fail. Now, when we look at formation of teams and when we look at why the teams can fail, is what we need to do is basically understand the opposite of this task first. That why do you think teams actually fail? Why do you think people, when they are put together in teams, they fail? Even though they come together, but they still end up, not being able to accomplish a task. Why do you think that happens?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No worries. Go on. So why do you think people sometimes when they are in teams also they fail?
One reason as to why people fail, poor communication. Why teams fail is poor communication between the team members, among team members.
So that's a good point. Yes, why people in the team actually fail sometimes is because of poor communication. Because if they do not have a good way to explain to their colleagues what is required to be done, or what are the steps required to be taken to get this task done, then in those cases, sometimes poor communication can lead to failures because the task cannot be achieved. So sometimes you look at when managers in the team actually have to inform everybody of say, for example, a certain announcement, they normally send out an email, but an email goes to everyone. Or sometimes you see in organizations, managers or leaders essentially come out with a memo, which is put up on the staff notice board so that everybody understands the announcement and the implication of that announcement. So if you have good, clear, concise, unambiguous communication, then it allows people to understand what is the meaning of the announcement or what is the meaning of the memo and what they are required to do in certain situations. So communication tends to be one of the hurdles why we see sometimes teams fail. Now, what could be other reasons of team failure? Any idea?
Lack of vision, like when teams do not have a clear vision or purpose, it makes it difficult for them to align themselves for success, since everybody is in different directions. Yeah, and this is because they do not know why they are working together as a group.
That is correct.
Which
So
makes
that's a
people
good point.
have
So
their
lack of
different
teaming skills.
assumptions.
That is correct. So you're referring to what is called lack of teaming skills. That means people do not understand why they have been put together in the team and why they are required to, work as a team to be able to collaborate, cooperate, and then achieve a particular, task. Some of the other reasons that we
Yeah.
can also see is resources. Sometimes managers put together a team. For example, a football manager would put together a football team, but he has not been provided resources in terms of funds or money or equipment by the management to be able to train the team effectively. And as a team, the team, although is a good team, but it still fails, or it still suffers a defeat in a match against the competition, even though they are considered to be a stronger team. But because of lack of practice or their own stadium or infrastructure, which is basically resources, the team is essentially not able to practice well. And that is the reason why, after even having a good football manager, good people in the team, the football team still loses a match against the competition. So resources sometimes can be an issue, wherein it allows, if there are not adequate resources provided, then also teams can fail. You have lack of vision. So, for example, sometimes people are not able to visualize what is the greater objective of coming together in a team. They understand each other, but they are not able to align with the long-term vision of the organization. So, if long-term vision of the organization is not made clear to the people, by the management or the top management in the organization. What is the vision? What is the mission of the organization, and why are we working towards this? Then also we sometimes see teams actually fail because there is a lack of commitment. There is a lack of let's say motivation to get behind the objective which has been laid down by the top management. So there are lots of reasons why teams can also fail. One of the other reasons that I can see is lack of accountability. Now, the reason I say accountability is that sometimes what happens is you work with other people or your colleagues within the team, but you say, okay, this was my job, I've done it. Now I don't care what others do, but I've done my job. Now the other person who is required to do something also says, I've done my job and I don't know. But who is supposed to bring it together? Who's supposed to now overall manage the completion of this particular task? Now, if there is lack of accountability, then also we will see that sometimes teams can fail. There can be misunderstanding. There can be lack of common purpose or a goal. It could be sometimes that people are overpowering. They are more possessive or aggressive. And that could also mean that other members sometimes feel that, this person is too aggressive and, we can't work with this person. So they, instead of complaining or instead of raising this to top management, just ignore that person. And that also, because they say, why should I go and blame somebody? It's not my job. And, that also could be a reason why sometimes teams could fail. So now, if I look at the theoretical background behind why teams are failing.
Can I come in?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I come in? I have some other reasons as to why teams may fail. I just want to cross-check with you and know if these are correct.
Yes.
One of the reasons I have is fixed mindset. When team members have a fixed mindset, does it contribute to a team failing?
So what is the reason that you mentioned? Sorry, a bit louder.
Can you hear me?
This is much better. This is the way you should be speaking. This is much better. Go ahead.
Okay. The reason that's why I'm giving a fixed mindset is that this approach makes team members fail because they already have it in their minds that they cannot improve or change their situation. Fixed mindsets makes the team members limited. It limits team members with coming up with innovative ideas and being creative, which may be of great help to the team in performing tasks or doing a new project because of the fixed mindset approach. I don't know. I want to know if that's a good reason enough for a team to fail, having a fixed mindset, and if my explanation is okay.
Yes, it is very good. Fixed mindset. Yes, sometimes when you look at people in teams, they are very fixated or have a fixed mindset, as you've rightly said. That means they're inflexible to change or accept suggestions. And they feel that they are always right, or they feel that this is the path which is right. And because of the fixed mindset, they are unable to change, and that can also lead to team failures. So that's a good point.
Then I have poor decision making.
That is also a good point. So lack of accountability or poor decision making can be, something which can also lead to team failures, because the team members would be doing their role, but the manager at the top or the department head is not capable of taking a decision or makes a poor decision. That means sometimes they ignore certain things, and that could also lead to the team working hard but still not being able to achieve the objective. So poor decision making can also be one of the reasons. Yes. So there are lots of reasons. It can be other reasons also. If, for example, people do not have clarity on their roles and responsibility, the reasons are
that is the one that I wanted to ask. When their roles are not clear.
Correct. So there can be lots of
roles that are.
That is correct. So depending on
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, that depending on the situation, you could have lots of reasons why team fail. We are looking at just recapitulating a few reasons of why teams actually fail, but there could be number of reasons depending on the situation or depending on what the organization is, what the structure of the organization is, culture is, and there could be hundreds of reasons for failure. But we are looking at some of them
Okay.
only
I
briefly.
want to ask. I want to
Yes, go ahead.
the previous point on poor decision making. Can I track it together with lack of accountability? Are they the same?
Lack of accountability might be slightly different. Lack of accountability could be at the team members end. Lack of accountability could be at the team leaders end. Lack of accountability could be at the organization end. So they could be
Okay.
contextualized. These reasons can be separate and they can also be contextualized to a particular type when you are looking at the situation, in terms of individually.
Okay.
Okay. No worries. So what are the main, we now understand what are the main reasons why team fail. Now, we need to theoretically also understand why these decisions or why teams essentially fail. So we look at two models. One is when managers actually form the teams, they look at going through a process of team building essentially. And that team building is the model which Bruce Tuckman has proposed. And this particular model, which Tuckman has proposed, essentially focuses on the stages through which people have to go through to.
I beg your pardon.
So these stages tend to be, 5 stages that he proposed. And in each stage, there are certain characteristics which have to be completed or have to be achieved before we can move on to the next stage. So this particular model, if you have, if you read the reasons why this particular model came up and why he proposed these 5 stages, was to allow members within the team to get together, then to discuss and have arguments or disagreements. At some stage, these disagreements or arguments lead to what are called, let's say, better communication because they understand the role, they understand their strengths and weaknesses as against other team members, and then they become a unit. That means they start performing, they start focusing on the objectives which have been laid down by the organization. And at some stage, the members in the team essentially know that this is what my capability is, this is what I can do, and this is what I can actually, understand, and this is what my colleague will do, this is what the other person will do, and I will have to respect that. So then they start performing as a unit. And then he also proposed a 5th stage. This 5th stage was introduced late in the 70s, and he suggested this stage as the adjourning stage. That means the closing stage of the team. That means once the team has done the achievement of the goal or has accomplished the task, the team members also go back to doing their normal day-to-day roles. So here, if we put together people in teams but do not understand their skill set, their experience, their background, their knowledge, and what they bring to the table when they are becoming a part of the team, can also lead to the failure of why teams cannot achieve objectives. Because the team has been put together, sometimes we hear the term, he's put the team together for the football match in a rushed fashion. He's not brought proper players in, and that's why we lost the match. Sometimes you hear the word that, the team has been put together, but some of the members of the team are not, actually performing. And that would be the reasons why sometimes the team actually, fails. So let's look at an example to understand why teams actually fail. So imagine, a project team which has been formed when you are studying at the university level and you've been asked to produce a report. Now, the report is to be produced in 5 different headings: introduction to research, which will cover things like rationale of research, aims and objective. It'll have things like, what are the reasons behind you would do the research and how would you carry out the research. The second report will be literature review. Somebody who will be responsible for bringing together all the existing work which is present and then looking at that work, whether it's been useful, not useful, and take out meaningful things from that literature review. The third report is going to be research methodology, how you're going to go about conducting the research, whether it will be primary research, secondary research, whether it will be a mixed method, whether you will go for qualitative or quantitative research. So somebody will present that. The next bit would be, once you've collected the data, you've decided on the sample, then somebody will present the findings of the report. And then towards the end, you'll draw conclusions. What were the hurdles faced? What were the ethical issues or problems? And what could be the future areas of research? Now, if you bring together this team to conduct the project, what the person or the researcher or the head of the department who's responsible for the research would need to look at is whether I have these people in the team who have enough knowledge and skills to be able to carry out this, in 5 parts. And if this is not giving him confidence, then he needs to rebuild his team. Are you an expert in introduction? Are you an expert in review? Are you an expert in deciding research methodology or presenting findings, working with softwares? And if this team is not put together in a way wherein he brings the best of skills and talent to come in and do this particular job, the team will fail. And that is where the failure will also lie with the manager, because he has failed to realize that these people that he's put together in the team do not have the relevant skill set required to produce and work together to produce a research project report. So when you look at this particular example, or you look at an example of, say, a simple example that let's look at another example, that you're conducting an event, a New Year event, New Year party, right? And then you're conducting a New Year party. What will happen is somebody will be responsible for sales, somebody will be responsible for marketing, somebody will be responsible for finance, somebody for administration, somebody for food and beverage. Somebody will work with, say, for example, the events team, which is to look at infrastructure, key artists, and guests. And then you would have an event team, which is maybe looking at security. Now, when you have to do this particular event, which is like a New Year party, and you have to look at sales, will look into sales of tickets, for tickets could be priced for children, for adult, for, say, a family of 4, etc. So what will happen is a lot of people will have to work together to basically, here you're looking at promoting the event, looking at sponsorships, securing, key guests, an artist. So this is their role. Now, what will be required to be done is looking at, if you are going to put this event together, you are going to look at what are the friends in your circle which will have these qualities that are best suited for them to take up this role. So if you have a friend who's, say, for example, an accountant, you might want to go to him for finance because he's an expert in managing finances or budgeting. So he would be the one who will create a budgeting plan and essentially let you know that this is how you would go about, costing for the event, the venue cost, the artist cost, the food cost, the printing cost, the promotion cost. And what you're going to do is you're going to put this team together. So maybe in sales, you might need 4 people. In finance, you might just need 1 person to take care of the finance. In administration, you might need 10 to 15 people because they will be required at the entry of the venue. They might be placed in other places where people get together so that no fights erupt or no disruption happens. People who are basically going to put out, say, food stalls, etc., would be required. So here you might need another 10 people, in this case. And then security, you might need 10 to 12 people to basically secure, the event and, the premises. So what you're looking at doing is you're totally looking at, for example, a team of 50 people to carry out this event. Now, when as a manager or when as a person who's the main director of the event looks at compiling this as a as a, let's say, as a team, what you're going to look at is what are the strengths of that person, what are the weaknesses, what areas they can do because they have prior experience and they've worked and carried out these roles. That is how you will put together a team. But if you put together a team wherein you don't have a person from the finance background and the person is weak in budgeting, you might overspend in the event, you might not make profit. And that could be one of the reasons why, the whole idea of doing a New Year party to make some profit and make some money may have failed because the finance person wasn't able to keep tap on the expenses. And you chose somebody who had very little experience of managing this kind of an event. So when you have to look at building a team, and if the team is not built in a proper way, wherein we know the strengths, weaknesses, their skill set, prior experience, and background of how they would come in and do value addition to the New Year's event that you're planning, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So even though you have the people, you have the money, you have the remit, but the team still does not achieve the objective of. So here, as a manager, as the director of the event, so as an event director, your aim is to, make, say, 50K profit. Now, if you're not able to make that profit by bringing this much people together, or let's say 10K profit on a sale, on sales of, say, 50K, then 25% profit, essentially, that would mean that the team has failed in its task. So you have to look at the reasons why teams fail, and that is, not getting the right people in place, communication, lack of decision making, lack of expertise. You're looking into reasons of, why teams essentially fail, and that could be conflicts happening, lack of trust, adequate resources. If there's a fight which broke out and, because of which there's an insurance claim which has come, that means you did not have enough people in security or administration to manage the event, and that could be one of the shortfalls. So we have to look at an example in this case to discuss why teams fail, and that could be done by taking up an example that you can put forward for the purposes of doing analysis for this particular task. Okay. Now let's look at the assessment criteria, 2.3, which talks about the evaluation of leadership styles on teamwork. Now, here is what we need to do is essentially understand first what are the various leadership theories. And when we talk about various leadership theories, there are lots of different types of theories, but we want to focus on 3 or 4. One is transformational leadership, democratic leadership. We want to look at, laissez-faire style of leadership or autocratic style of leadership. And we also want to look at participative style of leadership. Now, these are different leadership styles which we get to see within an organization or within a team when a manager or a team leader actually exercises his rights and responsibilities to get the work done. Now, one of the things that we need to look at is that why is leadership style important? Now, when you work in a team, sometimes you have to work with the manager. And in this case, if the leadership style of the manager is not something which is conducive to you, or you don't like that style, then you generally tend to switch off. So for example, if you work within a team and the manager has an autocratic leadership style, that means the person only looks at authority, the decision making is with the one person only, and there is no delegation of decision making or authority at the individual level. So here you would generally feel constricted. You would feel that, I do not get enough, leeway, or I do not get enough opportunities to be able to put my feedback to the person and, give suggestions to be able to make things work. And you then feel that, this person is something that I cannot work with. And that is where the person then starts to think negative and goes into a thinking mode where you say, I don't care, or, why should I care? And I'll do my job and I'll leave it. So here you see one of the persons switching off within the team because the leadership style of the manager is not something which is conducive or likable by the members of the team. You might look at a team which is doing quite well is because the leadership style is democratic. That means the manager at the top or the lead person at the top who's leading the team is believing in that I need to make a decision which is going to be benefiting everyone. I need to look at taking feedback. I need to look at taking suggestions. and I need to work together with everyone in my team to make them achieve the goal, and thereby the team will achieve the goal. So here the leadership style actually promotes inclusivity. It builds collaboration or works with collaboration as an attitude towards, achieving, does not exercise too much control, delegates maybe the authority of decision making at different levels. You don't need to come to me for every decision. For example, if it's a budget related decision, if you're a project manager, and if the decision is required that you need to change the budget by a certain amount, then you fix that level at say £1,000. And if it is anything that you need to buy or you need to, procure for up to £1,000, you don't need to come to me. But if it is beyond £1,000 and it is up to £10,000, then please come back to me. And that is where decision making is delegated, and people feel that they're empowered while they work within teams to be able to accomplish jobs and roles. So in such cases, you would generally see that the leadership style tends to play an important part as far as the achievement of goals is concerned in the team. So here, when we look at the theoretical frameworks, we need to understand the transformational leadership style, which was proposed by Bass and Ovilio in the 1990s. And their theory was that leaders should be of two different types. Transformational, that means they are leaders who inspire, leaders who basically motivate the team, they encourage innovation, and they have a shared sense of vision. That means they would want people to have the same vision and values, which would allow them to achieve the goals. And this style of leadership often sees people working within a team. It builds a positive work environment, and also individuals working in different roles and responsibilities work collaboratively to achieve the objective. On the other hand, he proposed, Bass and Ovilio, where they basically proposed, so if I put this as leadership styles, and this is Bass and Ovilio, they proposed, the two types of models, and this was done in 1994. And the transactional leadership style essentially, meant that the person is more focused, the person at the top is more focused on working within the team by using what is called reward and punishments. That means carrot and stick approach. So people who are working well, who are achieving their goals, meeting the objectives, are rewarded. People who are not meeting the objectives or are not able to complete the jobs given, then they are not rewarded, or they are essentially, penalized or punished. And these established rules and procedures generally tend to be seen in what is called transactional style of leadership. So this style of leadership might be effective in certain situations, wherein obviously the team members are very mature, they are quite experienced, and they know how they can complete their jobs, which does not require collaboration or a collaborative atmosphere, essentially, to achieve certain goals. So here is where what we generally look at, the importance of understanding leadership roles in particular and the leadership styles, because depending on the situation, depending on the task which has been given to the team, the manager, the person who's heading the team, should be able to exercise a particular type of leadership style which is going to be conducive or appropriate for the team to be able to work and accomplish or effectively work and achieve that particular goal. And here is where what we look at is, and why it is becoming important, is to understand that when sometimes organizations look at, say, for example, taking a head of department. So the HR department or the HR manager would then be looking at asking the person to go through interviews. But in the interview, they also ask the person to take certain tests, like psychometric tests or certain evaluative tests. And what they are looking at doing by conducting those tests is to bring somebody into the team or into the organization, which is going to be somebody who can work with other individuals within the organization. They do not want to bring a disruptor. They do not want to bring somebody who's going to come in and disrupt the apple cart. somebody who's aggressive, somebody who's bold, somebody who's, let's say authoritative. What the organizations then look at in the psychometric test analysis is looking at an ideal variance. That person should be a team player, person should be able to delegate, person should be able to allow others to make decisions. And that is what, when they look at recruiting people into the organization, they look at considering, because this allows them to bring somebody into the organization,
Sorry to
which
interrupt
is,
you, but I have a question.
yeah, go on.
I would like to know why we are looking at the psychometric tests. Like how do they come in?
So
How do they come in this aspect of the leadership?
So you need to do a bit of reading at your
I'm
end.
sorry, I did not get as to how we reach the point of kindly know how the tests come into the evaluation of the impact of leadership style.
Example that I had given was that sometimes when organizations look at recruiting people in the top positions or top positions of the company, the HR department is normally tasked with recruiting somebody into the organization, which will be a person who is going to be able to conform to policies and processes of the organization. They would want to bring somebody into the organization which is not too aggressive, not authoritative, somebody who's participative, somebody who's able to gel and work with other people within the organization. So sometimes in the recruitment process for recruitment of top management within the organization, the HR side of things also involves what is called doing psychometric tests. And these psychometric tests, which most employers use, are a part of their recruitment process. They are done primarily, to ensure that they are able to recruit persons who are going to be, beneficial to the organization. So they want to understand the personality of the person. They want to understand how the person looks at making judgments, to look at the aptitude of the person. And these all factors come in from psychometric analysis when they look at taking people into leadership positions. So they have a scale and they have some internal benchmarks. And when they ask people to take those tests, this allows them to understand that what kind of leader would they be, what kind of leadership style would they practice, what is their personality, and how would they work with people within teams. And that is why some organizations, sometimes when they recruit people at the top position, would also include psychometric test as a part of their recruitment process. So this is to understand leadership styles, their ability, their personality, and their attitude towards working within teams, because they are going to come in and lead a team, or they are going to come in and obviously lead a number of people to be able to accomplish organizational goals. And that is why we need to look at, sometimes as an example that I quoted, that organizations could look at leadership style and what kind of style the person works with. And that can be analyzed or evaluated by putting the person through or asking the person to take some psychometric tests. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I've understood.
So you'll have to read a bit more about this at your end, because there are lots of different things, obviously, that are a part and parcel of how people work within teams and why leadership styles in particular are important. So in the brief, in terms of discussions related to our session, we can cover some parts of it. And some parts of it, what you'll have to do is essentially look at doing a bit more reading through self-study to come up with and look at examples of why and how leadership styles can impact teamwork within an organization. Okay, and that is where these particular additional handouts, which I'm suggesting that you after the session, would be useful for you. Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff. So that brings us to the end of today's session. I will, upload some parts of this updated presentation in the handout along with the recording of the lecture on Moodle shortly, and you'll be able to access it from there. And then we'll meet up next time to discuss Learning Outcome 3.
Okay, no problem. But I have a request.